Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folarin. My guest this morning is Jake Epele. Now, Jake Epele is very well known. He's a policy development and advocacy expert. He's also founder of the Albino Foundation. A fine morning to you, Jake.
Good morning. Good morning.
Indeed.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm delighted to have you. It's been quite a while. And Ndifreke Ferdinand, a good morning to you too, ma'am. You are the program manager of the aforementioned foundation, Albino Foundation. A fine morning to you.
Thank you. A beautiful morning to you too. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, then. I wanted to, and our subject matter, as you know, is 2023, facilitating the rights of people with disabilities to vote. So we want to look at that. And as we said, Jake is a policy development and advocacy expert. So Jake, could you take me through the danger you feel, if at all there is any, that people with who are living with disabilities could be left behind? Because we've been hearing about this particular subject matter for quite a while, and all people, our leaders, they have been saying that they've been working on this, that no man shall be left behind. So I could sort of ask you for a progress report, Jake. How has it been in the last, take a decade, in the last 10 years, right up to now? What has been the situation with people living with disabilities joining in a whole national enterprise? Okay, maybe there's a technical issue. I don't know if Jake is still with us. Ndifreke, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, excellent. Well, you are, the program manager. When we do get Jake back up again, maybe we'll be, but looking at it, from the point of view of our caption, which is facilitating the right of people with disabilities vis-a-vis the 2023 election. As you heard, I was asking Jake to sort of give me a summary of how things have gotten better, stayed the same, or have gotten worse over, for example, the past decade, or maybe even a shorter period if you want.
Okay, so I don't know if I should do that, but he's back online.
Okay, Jake is back online. Okay, Jake.
Yes, just to be sure.
Good to have you back online. Okay. Ndifreke passed the buck to you because I was asking for a review of, let's say such a short time as the past decade in terms of people living with disabilities and their ability to participate meaningfully in national activities. Has it gotten any better? Has it stayed the same? Has it got any worse? What do you think, Jake?
It has gotten very, very, very better than what it used to be, because previously our strategy was to, as much as possible, make all the noise in terms of pragmatic, a little bit boisterous advocacy. But we've streamlined all of that into a policy and framework, which now makes it mandatory for INEC to carry out inclusivity. So we do now have a electoral act, 2022, which stipulates section 54, subsection 1 and 2, that it is mandatory for INEC to drive an inclusive election with necessary electoral provisions and resources that makes it accessible. Provision of assistive materials like magnifying glasses and braille and sign language. And of course, the almighty priority voting.
Indeed. You know, now, as you well know, when we talk about any country and its population of those that are living with disabilities, I've often heard that even that particular terminology, you know, it get as it be. People talk in terms of special abilities, never mind disabilities. But I was going to say they come in all kind of flavors. You just in speaking alluded to some, talking about magnifying glasses. That might be people with you know, visual challenges, maybe the deaf, maybe physical that will affect mobility and all of that. It's pretty widespread in Nigeria too, isn't it? Ranging from people who need assistance to be able to move around, even though we hear heroic stories of people living with disabilities who are going through university and the professions and, you know, needing to lean on, you know, good friends, so to speak. There's no official sort of, how does one put this now? A kind of aid that, look, good friends are everything, but the system itself, caregivers, minders, are those too much to ask, or is it not done anywhere?
A little bit of a lengthy conversation that dovetails into a question. Let me start with I think you picked on it, nomenclatures.
Yes,
you know,
yes. Okay. Oh, that was supposed to be a passing comment,
yeah.
but please pick up on it if it's important.
Yeah, well, the issue around nomenclatures, you know, it's important to know the right terminologies, you know, the right terms to use. For instance, I'm a person with albinism. I'm not an albino. You
exactly.
know, because when you talk about albino, which is albos, the Latin word albos, it means more than just a description of a person. But in all of this, like person living with disability has a little bit of an issue too. But the right terminology is person with disability. Now, the reason are not far-fetched because we want to ensure that you put the person before the challenges, put the person before the issues, you know.
Indeed,
so,
indeed.
Yes, so that description puts it in perspective that these persons are not stigmatized, you know, in any way by bringing the issue before the person. Because I'll tell you, my brother, issues will always go away, but the person remains.
Indeed.
So it's good to celebrate the person and not what happens to that person. The event will always go away, but the person will remain. So in terms of all of the structures and systems that an institution like INEC has put in place to ensure inclusivity, like I said, it's far more better than what it used to be. And we're working assiduously day by day with institutions like INEC. I am here in Sokoto to support the state independent electoral body to also ensure inclusivity at the grassroots, because everything shouldn't start, you know, everything should not start and end at the national. We need to also begin to look at the sub-national as well as the local government, even to the hamlets, because you cannot create a geographical location for democracy and short circuit all of the other people located in the places that you may describe as unreached. So our job is broad-based. We're trying to reach every hamlet, every locality, every sub-national, every national and regional. as well.
Let me just clear something up, Jake, if I may. Your foundation is not necessarily exclusively for persons living with albinism,
Is albinism.
but it's wider than that. Or is this a specialist foundation that concentrates on the challenges of persons living with albinism?
Okay, well, in the first place, you see the lady, our program manager,
Who I'm going to next. I'm going to ask her what program she's managing.
Yeah, well, she's managing all of the program, including managing my movement. She sent me to Sokoto. Last week, she sent me to Port Harcourt, So it's practically an organization for all persons with disability.
Okay.
And that's why we're making a switch. We're making a change of name. In the next few weeks, you will hear that we have moved from the Albino Foundation, as we were previously known, to the All Right Foundation, but with a simple acronym that says TAF Africa. We'll be making a change as TAF Africa. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now let me cross over to the lady in Difreke, our program manager of the currently named Albino Foundation. Very soon we shall be using a different name, and maybe, as in the case with Didi and some other, musical artists, you'll be referring to the foundation formerly known as. But jokes apart, in Difreke, tell me the scope of programs under the umbrella, so to speak, of the Albino Foundation, the way it is named now.
Okay, thank you very much, Yuri, once again. So just like the CEO and the founder of the Albino Foundation has spoken, the Albino Foundation is not limited to persons with albinism, but we are the face for disability inclusion. So our concern is on persons with disabilities, not just albinism. Okay, so our programs vary from advocacy for persons with disability to community development. We also deal on education and health. So it cuts across varied scope. Okay, but majorly we do a lot of research. There is advocacy. Of course, I am sure you have heard about our ongoing Able to Vote campaign, which is a zonal voter education campaign program for persons with disabilities to enhance and improve their participation, active participation in the political processes. So just like he mentioned, there is a better an improvement in the participation of persons with disabilities in the electoral process, but you want to see something more improved. You want to see an increased number of persons with disabilities in the electoral processes. So this is part of the scope of our programs, our activities.
Thank you very
these
much.
are the activities I am managing.
Okay. Indeed. Thank you very much. Jay, coming back to you, how big is the challenge? In other words, as we know, first of all, before I even go there, Jake, can one consider, persons living with albinism to be living with disability? Because, it doesn't, albinism doesn't affect, is the same as a person who is not living with albinism in terms of longevity and all that kind of thing. So I was curious, can one correctly refer to albinism as a disability?
Very interesting question, and I know you're smart, and I know you're going to ask that.
Jake, what do I know?
Well, let me put it in perspective. What albinism is, and what type of category, and then I'll list out a few challenges and leave you and the viewers to make that decision whether it's in the category of persons with disability or not.
Sure.
Albinism is simply a genetic condition that presented itself in issues around lack of melanin. And when I say lack, does not mean we don't have. We
Yes.
have insufficient or inadequate amount of melanin, resulting in the pale skin that you see that I have, the sight that you see that I struggle with because our retina is also affected, and then our hair. You know, I'm wearing a hat. If I take off the hat, I do have a golden hair.
Okay.
That I, you know, and I want to say to you and the viewers that I'm very proud to be a person with albinism. I'm not asking for anything less.
Melanin,
with that said,
melanin being what is responsible for one's skin color.
for coloration.
Coloration.
Yes, for coloration.
Yes.
Yes, melanin is a powerful chemical composition. It is responsible for colors of everything you see in humanity, whether it's your blood, whether it's your lungs, whether it's your kidney, your skin, your eyes, anything that produces color in the entire composition of a human being or animal or even tree has that melanin. Without melanin, every creation will be colorless. So when you do have these three features as a person with albinism, you are referred to as oculocutaneous. Oculocutaneous. Ocular has to do with the eyes. Cutaneous has to do with a skin with certain condition. All right. Now on the flip side, you have ocular albinism. That means that individual's eye is the only thing that is affected.
Okay.
And as a result, he will have an impaired vision or a category of vision impairment called low vision. You know, so is these two categories of individualization that makes for a person with albinism. Now, the challenges around a person with albinism automatically moves us into the category of persons with disability. What are those challenges? Number one, the sight. You know, even with the glasses, I can't see, I can't even read with the glasses, as expensive as it is. I cannot read with it. It protects me from the sun, no doubt. You know, so visual impairment is our number one physical disability, visual impairment. All right, discrimination is also an aspect that United Nations Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability has captured as what, when you have adverse discrimination that does not make room for reasonable accommodation, you can be termed a person with disability. Now, for me, health challenges, if I go out and spend just 10 minutes in the sun, I get burnt.
Okay.
And consistent burning of that exposure leads to skin cancer. I'm a skin cancer survivor, you know. So for me, that automatically does not allow me to do all that I need to do in the open space because of sun. Even while in the room, you're still being affected. So if you have if anyone have a better definition of disability, which is an impairment that does not allow you to function effectively, just like every other person, then albinism is a disability.
Okay, and thank you very much for that explanation, and also touching on the fact that albinism is not just one condition, as you explained by just mentioning two of the several, varieties that the medical people sort of divide it into. Thank you very much for that. Let me ask Ndifreke about something related, and that is the attitude. Ndifreke, can you hear me? Ndifreke?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, the attitude of our people to this condition in other areas of the world it is what it is. It's a condition such as Jake has been explaining, and then everybody gets on with their lives. But in Africa, I wonder if it has been your experience that it's different. Superstition comes into it. Tanzania comes to mind, the kind of things that our people will believe about this kind of a situation. What's it like in Nigeria, just for comparison? Because we've heard that, generally speaking, for people with disabilities, it has gotten a lot better. But in terms of the way people relate to and with persons with albinism, what's your finding?
Okay, thank you very much. I lost you along the way. So before I would answer your question, if I got you correctly, you're just asking about the attitude of people to this condition.
Yes, essentially that's it. What do you find to be the attitude of our people?
Okay, all right.
In urban areas, and
Yes.
maybe if it's different in rural areas.
In urban and okay, all right. So before I answer your question, I would just like to add to what Dr. Jake Epele mentioned before now. So that is disabilities are a social consequence of impairment. So it's basically the outcome of interaction between the impaired individual, the society, and the environment. So this automatically shows that impairment in itself is not a limitation. But then what makes the limitation or the disability is the fact that because of that impairment, there exists a barrier which hinders these persons from living normal lives like others. And this brings me to the question you've just asked. So societal stigma, discrimination against persons with disabilities is one of the strongest barriers that persons with disability face. And you've mentioned if it's there is a difference between the attitude of people in urban areas and in rural areas. So I happen to have studied outside the country, and I have met a couple of persons with disabilities. And to be sincere, I did not feel the kind of discrimination we feel here at home compared to what I saw there. So outside it's different. And then here in Abuja, example, I wouldn't say it's very harsh, maybe because of maybe adequate sensitization. The public already knows that those people are not different from us. They just have a condition like you have put it. So there is no need to keep them so much at arm's length. So that is one aspect. Then in rural areas, like I mentioned, we've been going around the country on a nationwide zonal sensitization program, and we've interacted. So at the rural level, we see more of this community participation, not just amongst the persons with disabilities, but the interaction between their society, the environment, and the persons is more harmonious than what we have here. So in urban areas, it's more of diplomacy. So I just have to be cautious to you, while it's more real, and more harmonious in the rural area. So that's my take on it.
Indeed.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Indeed, thank you very much, Ndifreke. Jake, I also was referring to the issue of knowledge, the knowledge base of our people, and sometimes that knowledge happens to be superstitious knowledge that they have taken, if it's not too much of a contradiction in terms to be referring to superstition as knowledge, but you get what I mean. People, the whole worldview is coming from superstitions that they have, and I think the most horrible examples of this were reported out of Tanzania. I would imagine that still talking about albinism, not going on to generally disabilities, it's much better in Nigeria, I hope.
Well,
okay.
Okay. Andy, let me take that.
I wanted to. Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, sir, go on.
I have been to Tanzania thrice. When the issue of killing or persons with albinism became the order of the day in Tanzania. I was one of the people that the UN drafted to go and make some intervention in the area of advocacy and policy and sharing strategies with the government of Tanzania. The problem of ritual attack on persons with albinism stems from unnecessary superstition that the body parts of persons with albinism can give money and can also give power. So that's what kickstarted that very hideous crime.
In Tanzania or generally in Africa?
In Tanzania in particular. I started it in Tanzania, but it will also shock you to know that it's also here in Nigeria. There were a number of, in 2016, we saw a woman in Makurdi chop off the head of her own daughter, and we had to go to court because we were also trying to get hold of the husband who ran away. In April 2017, we also recorded the decapitation of the head of a woman with albinism and also her breast. There was also an issue in Calabar where my current coordinator, who has been with me for the past 16 years, going to 17 years, was adopted for ritual purposes. The only reason why Bassey is alive today was the fact that the so-called shrine rejected him. So
is he also a person with albinism?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He's still my coordinator in Calabar. So you see, you have this thing across board, whether it's in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Namibia, in Uganda, in DRC, in Ethiopia. It's a major issue, and that's why our work at the UN level and also at the African Union has been focusing on a lasting solution. These are some of the issues that we are tackling. And of course, we're getting trickles of result, but it's far more better than what it used to be.
Are we in Nigeria, do we have the largest population of persons with albinism in Nigeria? That is, looking at it in Africa, in any case, it is thought that even though albinism does occur elsewhere, it is thought that mostly people sub-Saharan Africa are affected. So the question I wanted to ask is,
yes.
Okay, please continue.
Yes, Andy, maybe you have to put your system on silent. I don't know why people are making noise in the office. Now, it's important to say here categorically, as an advocate, and our voices and influence is beginning to grow, we're very, very careful about playing with numbers, especially when there is no concrete evidence-based source. But I assume that taking into cognizance the large population of Nigeria, we will have more numbers of persons with albinism in Nigeria than we have anywhere in Africa. There's no empirical data that I can cite as proof to that. But what is then the solution is that we have a working agreement and an MOU with the national population, and we have been part of the instrument that they have developed currently that will capture albinism in disaggregated manner, as well as homes of persons with albinism, parents of persons with albinism, siblings of persons with albinism, their health condition, how many children, how many women, how many men. In the next 1 year, God willing, and we go through the census, I can come back on your network and give you the exact number. But I can tell you that, yes, taking into consideration the number of the population, over 200 million, we may have the highest number of persons with albinism. We've done some data collation of about 9 states plus FCT. And it will shock you that all of the states we've done, including where I thought we had more numbers of persons with albinism, which was places like Enugu and the East. You know, it will shock you to know that we got the greatest number of persons with albinism from Kogi State. And that's the essence of empirical data.
Indeed.
Because they give you exactly what the numbers are.
Indeed.
At the places where those numbers are.
Thank you for putting that in perspective. There's no empirical data to work with. That is still a work in progress, but these are the figures that are banding now. And it's very logical the way you put it, Jake, that considering that we have the biggest population, it wouldn't be surprising at all to find that indeed the number in that case might be high. I'll stay with you, Indy. We've explained it, well, Jake has explained it that, you know, actually it's going to expand beyond that. That is to say, we've been speaking about albinism, but it's more than that, and very shortly there should be a name change that will signify that. So I wanted to ask you, what other areas would be interesting your foundation, you know, the way it is now and even when it changes its name? What other areas of disability will you be concerning yourself with? Indeed.
Please. Yes, I did not hear you.
What other areas of disability, people living with disability, what other, you know, populations will you be, you know, casting your glance at, you know, focusing attention on?
Okay, so generally, we are the face of disability inclusion. So it's not limited to any specific one, just like we've mentioned previously. So, but if we are talking in the context of the elections, we will limit it to the kind of impairment.
Okay.
Yes.
In terms of election, I get you.
Okay. Exactly. Good. Okay. So in the context of the election, there are 4 assistive devices that we made available. So we have the magnifying glasses, we have graphics, posters, we have the Braille ballot box, and then we have cubicles.
What was
so
that
now
last one? I beg your
that
pardon.
shows the kind of impairment.
I didn't hear the last one.
So those who have sight. Okay, so I said, okay, I mentioned magnifying glasses. I mentioned graphics and posters.
Yes.
I mentioned special cubicle,
Okay.
and then I mentioned the Braille ballot boxes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, good. Yeah. So those with visual impairment, yes, visual impairments, they use the Braille. Then the special cubicles are for those, you know, those that have height issues, okay? So the cubicle will help them to be able to reach where they need to vote, cast their vote.
Okay.
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 Then we have the magnifying glasses. For example, persons with albinism who they've not lost their sight, but it could be a little
be very
strenuous to read properly. So exactly, yes, exactly. And then the posters for those with hearing impairments, yes.
Okay.
And other ones. So people with, let's say, something like autism, okay, or Down syndrome, yes.
Okay, please
so,
go on.
And of course, there is also the aspect of accessibility to the polling units.
Indeed.
Did you hear me?
I can hear you. Please continue. I can hear you. There's also that the matter of accessibility.
Saying, yes, accessibility to the polling units. Good. Okay. Yes, exactly. So those ones, example, wheelchair users, those with physical impairment. So maybe those with leprosy, those with Down syndrome, those with wheelchair users, okay?
Yes,
Yes, so
yes.
there should be provisions for ramp where they can easily go into the polling unit or something.
Now, many of these matters that you've just spoken about, are they being addressed? You spoke about ramps, maybe enlightened builders nowadays, especially in the urban areas. You have to make provisions for people that would need, ramps or special gangways in order to participate, for example, at banks. I know we're talking about the 2023 election in particular, but these special assistances,
Yes.
are they, is this just in the planning stage, or quite frankly, have they been paid for, done and dusted, just waiting to deploy?
Okay, thank you very much. So before I respond to the question, I would love to use this opportunity to address, or rather beseech our viewers to be a champion for disability inclusion. So being inclusive also includes ensuring that every person has access to your office, to your church, to your hotel, to your bank, to whatever organization it is. So while you may have the staircase, the steps for people that can,
yes.
there should be the ramp for wheelchair users, example.
Indeed.
Okay,
and you know what? I'm going to interrupt you just briefly. I beg your pardon,
yes,
Indy.
INEC,
Indy, I have to interrupt you because Ada has called in and has been holding on for a while. Good morning, Ada, in Jos.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Ayori. Good morning to Dr. Jack Epele and
Indy Ferdinand.
Indy Freke Ferdinand. Mr. Ayori, Epele is a household name when it comes to issues pertaining to people living with, physically challenged people. He is very passionate. I've met him a couple of times on Radio Nigeria program. Honestly speaking, God will bless him. God has used him, Now, this about INEC, we're restricting it to INEC for now. Now, for INEC, I agree they have improved. But what I don't understand now is I don't know if they can push for that. Why can't they reserve seats, some seats? Not that they will not contest, but they will contest, but it will be all the people who will contest with people with, living with, people who are physically challenged, you understand? So at the end of the day, the electorate is forced to vote somebody that will emerge from that lot instead of throwing it open for them. So most times when they go open with others, they find it difficult to win, even when they are very good, you understand, because of all these other variables. So I don't know how far Dr. Ele has done with that. But I say kudos to him. He's done a lot. If you see when he talks on some of those programs, he is almost weeping. I'm telling you, I feel for him. But with sensitization now, it has improved. But my worry now is outside the election period, that is where they have big problems. Outside the election, sometimes you go to the bank, you see them crawling, that bank door. It is sensitive to the wheelchair. They make them leave it. I've seen it before I went. The person will literally crawl into the bank. It's really sad,
Yes.
Parents should be, should not discriminate against their children. Some of them hide their children. They can fulfill their potentials, and God has a way of doing this. Some of my friends that are living with albinism, they are very intelligent. They are doing very well, So let's not give up on this country.
Thank you very much. I think we've established that albinism is only about the pigmentation. Nothing else is really affected apart from, as Dr. Kwele explained about the skin condition, but intellectually, in terms of life expectancy, it's the same. But Jake, would you like to respond to Ada's phone in?
Ada, thank you for your kind words. I want to say that we still have a lot to do, and I'm not the only one doing what we're doing. I mean, you see my colleague here with me, and there are several other people behind the scene that are doing a great work, and I want to also appreciate them. The truth is, where Ada is going is affirmative action. There are countries that are practicing that. There are other institutions that are advocating for that. You know, it's a good thing, but let us also take into cognizance the principle of inclusion. Affirmative action, somebody else may argue with me, does it really respect the principle of inclusion? Why would I give you a meritocratic favor at the expense of anybody who is qualified? Someone can take that up as an argument. So I would crave the indulgence of policymakers and those in government to create a level playing field where everyone will participate and get what is necessarily due to them. I'll give you an example of what happens even in the community that I lead.
Jake, forgive me for interrupting, but I didn't want to miss this call from Kano. Mukhtar called in from Kano. I'll come straight back to you so you can continue. Mr. Mukhtar in Kano, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My contribution to this particular program is that why are they tilting their attention to the vote? I mean, there has to be a policy framework that all people should be geared towards training them to be lawyers, to be judges, to be employed in any other sectors, whether private or government or government agencies. But why is it that the right to vote? They have the right to be voted for. No. Yes, they have the right to be voted. They have the right to vote. Why are they limited to vote? They are human beings like us.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mukhtar. I think the line was poor, but thank you, Mukhtar. So, Jake, you could pick it up again, please. And, Mukhtar has added this. Oh, Mukhtar, are you still there?
Yes. Let me go straight to Mukhtar.
Sure.
And I can feel his passion. I can feel his enthusiasm. In terms of voting and to be voted for, we are working assiduously with INEC to ensure the implementation. We do have a law that makes it mandatory for us to vote and be voted for. In the foundation, we have Able to Vote, which is a campaign to get persons with disability to participate in the voting process. We also have Electable. Electable is geared towards focusing on persons with disability to be elected into elective offices and appointed offices. Now, the outcome, the reasonable outcome, the humble outcome of our effort for the first time in the history of this country is producing 16 candidates. 2 of them are persons with albinism contesting in the highest office of the state. Governor of Sokoto State, governor of Akwa Ibom State. Both of them in 2 different political parties are persons with albinism. And they are persons with disability even in the current House of Rep, So there are persons with disability who are also contesting for Senate, for House of Representatives, for the State Assembly, and various offices, elective offices. Now, in preparing them to participate, especially in the legislative arm, we are deploying interns or persons with disability who will go and understudy existing legislators so that they will know what to do when they are elected.
Indeed.
We're engaging INEC. We have a guideline for inclusion, disability inclusion, that INEC has approved. We are just about to print and disseminate. We have a guideline for political parties that IPAC has approved. we're about to print and disseminate, we have a guideline for inter-security agencies, that we brought all the security agencies together and formulate. These
All
are
right. All right.
stipulated rules.
One moment, Jake. Again, Jake, I didn't want to interrupt you, but again, Reverend Dominic has been on for quite a while and he has held on. Thank you very much for that, Reverend Dominic. Go ahead now, please.
Good morning, Dr. Yuri.
I wish. Good morning.
Good morning, Yuri. Good morning, Pele. Jack Pele is a personal friend. But Yuri, I want to say this. I don't most of the times agree on this, what you call, affirmative action. Yuri, let me give this example. If Dr. Pele is a minister of health, for instance, if they appoint him as a minister of health, and the policy of the nation in the health sector is not good, that he, as maybe a person with albino, is a minister of health, cannot help all his colleagues. What we need is good governance that will take care of the weak, the strong, the poor, the rich, the disabled and disabled. In America, they have what they call a homeless house. If you don't have a house, or you are born in the street, as we say in Nigeria, you will have a place to stay and grow and have your education. There's no Minister of Homeless Affairs in America. But the policy and the country is running well. They take care of everybody. One day, the dwarfism will look for affirmative action. One day, the women, the men, the boys, the girls, pastors will look for affirmative action. Is not the best for a nation. What we advocate in the nation is a good governance that take care of all sorts of people, take care of the weak, take care of the strong. That is my personal friend, although we have not seen for a long time. What he's doing is great. But how long do we go this route? That every sector of the nation we advocate, we crowd, we want affirmative action before they take care of. What we need to advocate here is good governance that take care of all the citizens of a nation equally and treat them equally. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic, for calling in. Indeed, when you were answering me, I don't know if it was the phone calls, when you were answering my last question, I wanted to know how far INEC had gone since you so rightly brought it back into the track of the 2020, the context of the 2023 election, whether the magnifying glass and all those kind of those aids that would be required, are we past the documentation stage? Are they now ready to be deployed come 2023? Or, is it a work in progress?
Okay, so it's a work in progress, but there is an assurance that these devices will be available come 2023 elections.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
Let me add to that.
Sure.
Let me add to that. Indy is right, but also there has been a pilot test of these devices and how they have been used. Yeah, it was used in Osun. It was.
I think in the Zoom, I think people in the office need to mute their connections. I think they have their connections open, and so it's filtering in. But please continue, Jake.
Yeah, and please tell your colleagues. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, the provisions are physically available. INEC has acquired.
Okay, that's great news.
INEC has acquired magnifying. Yeah, they've acquired magnifying glasses. They've acquired brailles. They've acquired, even in most cases, they've acquired other devices, including posters that can help in mainstreaming inclusion. Let me piggyback on what Pastor Dominic says.
Sure.
Pastor Dominic, I'm a firm believer that we should practice meritocracy. Let me give you an example. A young woman with albinism had called me a few years ago and said, listen, they refused to give me admission in the university. And I said, why? He said, because I have albinism. I said, I don't think so. What is the score what's the university cutoff mark? He said, oh, they say it's 250. I said, okay, what do you have in your exam? He said, I have 200, but they should give it to me because I have albinism. And I said, that's wrong. You know, that's wrong.
It doesn't
You
work
understand?
like that.
So I believe that people should get things on the basis of 1, their capacity, 2, their competencies, 3, their character. You know, I'm a defender, I'm a proponent for these 3 qualities in every leader, in everyone that wants to get involved in governance. You must be a person of character, competence, and capacity. If you don't have these things, don't give me a position because I have albinism. I won't have the capacity to drive what is needed in that position to affect the society, you know. But people should be given responsibilities because they can actually contribute, not on the basis of pity.
Indeed.
Not on the basis of pity.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Indeed, such a noble thought, and it's also exemplary, and I'm sure will be very encouraging because it's been established. You said it. It's also in the literature. There is no intellectual impairment at all. You know, there is no matter about. Yes, life might be tough because of the special indications that you highlighted, such as, you know, sight and being out in the sun. But apart from that, intellectually, nothing. So it's about competency. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Jake Ekpele, policy development and advocacy expert, and also to thank you, Indy Ferdinand, program manager, and should I say all the people in the office who left their audio on while we were speaking. So thank you very much, Jake and Indy, for coming on our program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Then. Our pleasure. So we're going to have to leave it here. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folare. Bye-bye for now.